for the event of the Sitecore Group Coimbatore. Those who are not familiar about SUG Coimbatore Group, we just launched a month ago and we are excited to host our first event. And we are planning to cover many interesting topics in our future events. So be sure to subscribe our newsletter on our website SugCbe.in and to get stay updated with the latest events and whatever the blogs and we are going to write. So we have many plans in future. For today, so we appreciate all our support we have received so far. And without further ado, I would like to introduce our speaker, Mr. Balaji Kantasamy, a three-time Sitecore MVP and a practice director, who is also a mentor for SUG or CB group. And the topic for today's session is Sitecore Search. So I think Balaji would like to host that event today. And specifically, I would like to thank Balaji for agreeing and accepting our invitation and sharing the knowledge to this community. So without further delay, I'd like Balaji, please go ahead and get started if you'd like to.
Hey everyone, welcome to the group. Thank you for taking time. I know it's Sunday evening and IPL is also happening. I didn't realize that. Thank you for taking time and joining this session. I want to keep this session more interactive and then walk you through whatever I've learned through the Sitecore Search. So feel free to stop me anywhere. If you had any questions, feel free to put it in the chat. The group members will be able to help me. Please do raise your hand if you had any questions. Feel free to ask. Let's get started. I did have a co-presenter. Unfortunately, Madhu couldn't join us today. She's not feeling well, and that's the reason I'm just making it myself. So I'm a 3 times Sitecore technology MVP. I'm also a practice director in Computer Enterprises Inc. here based out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We do even have offices in Chennai. We have an offshore team as well. Moving on, let's get started to the meat of the presentation. What exactly is Sitecore Search? In simple terminology, you can have it in 3 different sections. You can see this customer engagement console, where you will see all your analytics configuration and any configuration that you need to do for the search. And then you have the search API and the recommendation services. And the last one is events API. The search API is pretty much with Sitecore Search. This is the main thing. Anything you need to do with Sitecore Search or connecting it with, for example, you can use it for Sitecore itself, or you can use it for WordPress or any platform you could use. The whole thing is driven by Search API. They do have SDK. So the SDK communicates to the Search API through the REST endpoints, and then you can use it in any platform you want. The last one is like the events API. This is a core thing for the search to work on the algorithm. So most of your search events, whenever a user is searching for a term or anything anything related to analytics, is pushed through the events API, and it can handle a huge amount of traffic. The whole events API eventually will be used for your search relevance and a lot more features. Okay, that is always a question. Like, a lot of people confuse between Sitecore Discover and Search. To be very clear, Sitecore Discover is a separate platform, and Sitecore Search is a different platform. So Discover, in simple terms, you can say Discover is only focused towards commerce-driven applications. Anything Sitecore Commerce, not exactly commerce, it's all like your e-commerce kind of sites, everything would use Sitecore Discover. That's totally a different platform. Sitecore Search is certain things that picked up from Discover. You can say a Discover 2.0, which the good features of Discover is pulled out and have a subset of those features, and they build something entirely new, which is Sitecore Search, which is targeted only for content-related search, not related to e-commerce application. Even in first place, I did have the same question, like, what exactly is this? And I even often confuse between sometimes saying search as Discover or Discover as Search. Just keep in mind, there are 2 different platforms. have unique features for. Okay, let's look into the platform capabilities. So we have few listed here. So I'll start with like visitor profiles. So anytime a user is coming in, visiting the website, like I talked before, events API. So everything related to that visitor will be pushed into the website. That it creates a visitor profile. So anytime you do search, you are browsing through the websites, doing a click through and everything, all those information will be captured through the visitor profile. So for example, let's take an example. Like if you're going into a website, you're searching for a fish hook or a shoe or something like that, then it knows that like it will create a grid like unique to you, and then it will add those content to that particular visitor profile. So the next time if you're doing some search, it automatically knows that, okay, this person could have browsed these areas and he's searching for this particular thing. Then it can give you relevant data. Content profiles is also something similar, where a content is tagged to a particular profile. So wherever a user is doing search and what search they clicked and all those things are taken care, and then it creates a content profile. It's close to a visitor profile. And then tracking analytics. The first 2 points, whatever I talked through, is everything driven by the tracking analytics. So it can track through like what exactly you search, which link you clicked. For example, I'm searching a particular term. There are like 4 different results. And if I'm clicking on the 4th result, then it knows like, okay, the fourth result is what most of the people are clicking. The next time when somebody is searching, then it can bring the 4th result up top. It automatically tunes relevance with AI. So we have generic connectors. When I say generic connectors at the moment, Sitecore Search supports more like a web crawler, sitemap crawler, so more like a generic connector. So in this demo, whatever I'm going to show you a site that's being crawled directly from my blog, which is not Sitecore. It's obviously not Sitecore. So generic connectors is like you can crawl any site, doesn't have to be Sitecore. Multi-index management. Multi-index management is something similar. So you can have multiple indexes. The whole point of having a search is like a unified search, where you will have different types of data sources. For example, I can have my blog, I can have my company's news, multiple different sources. There are like a lot of scenarios where you'll have different websites piling into one single index. And then when you go on the site and then you do a search, then you're getting data from different indexes, not just coming from one index. And it also knows that it will relevance tune and say like, okay, if I'm searching for a news article, then it brings from the news site. Or if I'm searching for a different article, it brings from a blog or something. So it's all mixed together as one single content source. So it's easier to find what you're looking for. Context and rules engine. So when you start doing particular search, it has a context, and then you can also build a rule engine on that. In the Sitecore Search, you have certain rules that you can define. So if we are searching for this one, then show this. So there is a rules engine. I'll show it in the demo. Then you have a multi-local and multi-region support. So multi-local is more multilingual support. So you can have English or Spanish or any different languages, and it would still search should be able to, properly index those content and show you relevant results according to the language that you are searching for. Multi-region support, it just mentions like it's a region support. It's hosted in different locations, and then it also supports that. So this will be mainly useful when you're doing a GDPR compliant kind of thing. In whenever you do Europe related, they wanted to keep their data in their territory. So basically, if you're hosting a site for GDPR compliant, then basically it should stay within the Europe region. Then you have the A/B multivariant testing. Like it says, you can do A/B testing and say like for this particular result, show this sets of results, and for the same search term, you show a different set of results and see which one performs better, and then you can eventually say, okay, this is positive, showing some positive results. Let's keep this as a thing. So you can do a multivariant testing to figure out which content is performing better. Going further on features, you have the first one is recommendations. Like I was saying, like AI is there to do automatically improve your search experience. Whenever you are doing any search, then according to your analytics, it fine tunes and it knows like person A is searching for this. Most of the people are clicking this particular link, then it should automatically relevance tune that particular data. Second one is suggestions. This suggestions is pretty much a basic requirement. For example, with Sitecore, out of the box with Solar, we typically it takes a lot of effort to get this suggestion to working, or even you have to have a custom implementation. The first and foremost feature, more like we are all spoiled with the Google kind of search. When you start typing, it automatically gives you a pop-up with all different results or relevant content or autocomplete kind of a feature. So that's part of Sitecore Search. Third one is facets and filtering. So when you are searching for a particular term, then you on the left typically you have a set of facets where you can narrow it down to a particular search, so you can find the relevant results that you're specifically looking for. And then you do have stop words. So typically in search in the enterprise level, they would ask this as a common feature like stop words, synonyms, and where you would have certain words you don't want to let them search for it, or you can put them as stop words so it doesn't pull it up from the index. Moving on, then you do have a relevance. So with this is all like the customizable features with Sitecore Search, you can fine tune the relevance. In that sense, I would say like if you're searching for a result, it shows the subset, then you can drag, I want this particular result to be more prioritized. I don't want to show this result. You can do everything for a particular search term, and it's capable of doing that. Ranking. So a lot of times clients would require, say like, hey, if a person is searching, for example, let's take healthcare. If a person is searching for a particular term, I want this result to be up top or this result to be featured, and those kind of things you can do with the ranking. Or in other terms, you can say like if there is a particular keyword, then boost the result by 10%. Or if there is a particular result, I don't want this to be showing up, you can decrease the boost so that it goes to the bottom. Sorting is the same. You can also do like a custom sort. This is all through the pipeline that you can customize. The last one is personalization. So you can personalize a particular content and suggest for a particular user. It is also a customizable feature. There are advanced features. Universal search. In this case, I did talk about having multiple sources. A good example is having multiple different websites going into a unified content content source, and then everything is combined in one place, and then you can do search around that. So that is your universal search. Synonyms, I did talk about a particular word can have multiple different meanings. So for all those words, you can point down and say, hey, this is the actual term, and then these are the synonyms for that. Then anytime anyone searches for any of those terms, then it's going to all combine and say, okay, you mean this. So I'm going to show you all the results related to that. So the next one is personalized result. So this personalized result is more related to, like I talked before, everything passed through Event API. When you're doing a particular search, it creates the visitor profile for you, and then it tags everything that you do on the site. Basically, pretty much like what are you browsing, what are you clicking, everything. They give us a piece of JavaScript that is put on the website, so it tracks every click, every navigation that you do. So that way it can personalize and show, okay, I know this person is specifically interested in, for example, football or something, then it will show relevant results to that, or shoes or anything. So specific to that, it can personalize and show you. Last one, it has the question and answer capability. Where you started with the question, it has the context that what you're looking for, and then it will start like when you start asking further questions, it knows like Bala is looking for Sitecore Search, then he's asking this question, so let me combine these two and then possibly give more relevant results to what I was looking for. Last one is match highlighting. This is a common feature you could have seen in Google, like when you start searching for a text and when the results are showing up, it will highlight the text in that particular result saying like, hey, we found this result, this text in the result. So that's the reason we are highlighting. So it's a common feature in search. That's also out of the box available. Let's get into the demo. case issue. So first thing I want to quickly show is if you're not aware, Sitecore Search is what is being used in the Sitecore.com. The first and foremost, they implemented the first version of Search there. There are a couple of questions. Let's quickly check that. Sumit, can we say this can be replacement for Solar? Are they two different full form? That's a good question, Sumit. Solar is something that is really needed for the Sitecore backend to work. So it like no matter what, if you use like Coveo search tags or Sitecore Search, still Solar is mandatory requirement for Sitecore to work. And this Sitecore Search will be mostly used for your web presence. In this case, if you see Sitecore is running, it will have a Solar in the backend for all the backend CMS related work for your content management. At the front end, you can use Sitecore Search. That answered your question. So let's look at this one, and you can see this first feature. We have one more. Sitecore Search can be integrated with XMPlore and standalone. So at the moment, Sitecore Search. Okay, this is a common question everybody has. Okay, let me explain a minute on that. So Sitecore Search, if you have used Coveo in the past or search tags, it's not something like you will install a package on your Sitecore platform, which will index all your Sitecore contents, and then you can use it on search or a set of tools. For example, they have few components. I've talked multiple times about Coveo. They have component tool sets that you can utilize more like an SXA kind of thing. That's not the case with Sitecore. So Sitecore Search is more platform agnostic. So it's part of their Sitecore DX, where this can be used with any platform. It doesn't have to be Sitecore. It can be WordPress or it can be any site. So at the moment, they are supporting only the web crawlers. I'll show you in the demo. So that way you will get an idea like what exactly we are talking here. So it doesn't have a package that you can install on Sitecore and use it. So for the question related to XM, yes, you can use this with XM because XM is under the cover. It doesn't consider XM as a Sitecore website. It thinks like, okay, it's just another website. I'm crawling the content. So Sitecore Search is a SaaS only offering. That is correct. Sitecore Search is only SaaS offering. So they don't have something you can install on your on-prem or anything. So it's fully a SaaS offering. Second. Good questions. Keep it coming. So these are few questions. Even on the first initial days, I had the same questions. So I want to keep the session more interactive. So keep it coming. I'll be able to answer whatever I know. So let's take a look at the Sitecore Search here. So the first thing you notice here is the suggestions. So once you start typing, then you see everything it pulls up related to what I'm doing, and you can do powered by search. Let's do this. And then if you notice when I do a search on the left, you see everything is facets. And on the top, you can see the recommended content that it is giving me, recommendations on what you want. And here you can see it's coming from blog sources. This is tagged to blog, and then it has review content here. You can see webinars or like these are different content types within their Sitecore platform that it's pulling the data from. And then the facets. Rest you can explore is nothing new here, but this is entirely working with Sitecore Search. So if you really want to see it in full action, go ahead and check this site. So before we get into Sitecore Search, the first question would be like, hey, how do I get access to this? So Sitecore Search, if you are a partner, you would be able to talk to your partner manager and then get a demo instance for your company, and then you can utilize it. At the moment, it is not something they have it open for all, like anybody could log in. At the moment, it is more like you need to request through your partner engagement manager and you can get access. But in future, what I've heard is like, hey, how expensive is Sitecore Search? Is it too expensive or something? Like what I have heard from the leadership is they have mentioned that they want to keep this more like a low cost platform. So from the cost aspect, if you would see, it's not as expensive as Coveo, it's top of the class. They're targeted only for search. It would stay in between search tags and Coveo. It's like more on the middle ground, and it's not too expensive compared to your Sitecore licensing. That's a common question I've been asked most of the time. Okay, so this is the Sitecore Search platform, and you can see this RFK SRV. This is more like reflection. So if you're not aware, a little bit history, the reflection is the company. A few people came out of Google and they started this company, and this is more targeted for e-commerce application. They have huge clients, and then that was acquired by Sitecore. Eventually became Sitecore Discover, and then from that version 2.0, they separated and brought it back down, which is called as Sitecore Search. And you can still see there is like a reflection server in the URLs. That's still the same. So the first foremost things, let's go to the platform. Once you log in, you would see that there are like few things here. The first thing I would say is let's get into the domain settings. This is where you will be doing all the your domain level configurations for your entire tenant. I don't want to go into details here. There's a lot of things which typically we don't do. But one thing to notice is a lot of the Sitecore search features, you would see some things like this, like to do optional, and there are something like there it will mention it's a to do when you create a new what do you call, like a new content source or something. So in those cases, you have to do that. And if it is a to do optional, you can skip. In this case, you can see everything is like these things I have not touched. It's all like optional. Most of these features, like whatever you see here, everything is set up by Sitecore Search. They will set it up and hand it over to us. In this case, it's set up for my company, so it's CA America here, my domain nickname. There are attributes here where you can add, and then you can mention like what are, for example, you can consider in. I'll try to keep it closer to Solar and or Psycho terminology. So here you can create new attributes where you're mentioning what is the attribute, what is the type, what is the data type, and whether it is required, it should be returned in the response or not. Sitecore Search is much more capable that it doesn't do everything out of the box. You have to mention what you need. It's much more customizable, saying like, I want this data to be given out in my API. I don't want this particular data to be available and things like that. So you can see that as whether it is a facet or is it a filter. This is typically something we do at the Solar config level, like adding a custom field and mentioning something similar to that, you can say closely related. So feature configuration, again, all these features are like you can expand them and then you can customize it. But most of this is like out of the box, what API response it needs to give. So 1 second. Cancel this. So if you say facets, what facets and all the terminology, everything, you can customize everything here. Filters. This is all possible. Mostly I have not touched any of these things. Most of the things are out of the box given. And everything is available here for us to customize. It has a lot more features. If you go to the subdomain, you can see this more like a DNS level configuration, and this is set up by them. I have not touched anything, so mostly given by them. So this whole area is more like your core, what do you call, like the core for your Sitecore Search, more like an admin level thing. So we typically don't need to touch any of this here, other than the attributes that you saw. Going back to sources. So in this case, you can see this. I have a few different sources. When you click on add source, a couple of questions here. One moment. How to integrate with Sitecore application? Shailesh, thanks for the question. So you can see this pretty much with Sitecore. If you want to integrate, it is going to be, it should be in a public facing website. In that case, it should, if it is having sitemap or yeah, sitemap is one way. So let's get to that one moment. So you have these different types of crawlers are available. So one is API crawler. Push API is where you push data to the index. And then you have web crawler, where basically you can point to a website and it crawls. Pretty much it works like a Google. Like it doesn't matter if it is Sitecore or any different platform. It can just go and crawl anything that's public facing. Can we integrate with Sitecore JSS with endpoint? Okay, hold on a second, 1 moment. Can Sitecore Search return results via GraphQL endpoint? Notice data. At the moment, I would say it's a REST API endpoint, not GraphQL. It's REST. Can we integrate with Sitecore JSS with endpoint? Vignesh, that's a good question. Yes, because it is all API based. So you can use out of the box their widgets. So they have a SDK that you can, it's a JavaScript SDK that you can include on your application, and then you can use their REST endpoints and have your custom components. So yes, it can be integrated. Yes, it can be done with React, Next.js, or whatever. Only thing, you will not have those components ready to use. More like, okay, let me install this NPM package and start using those. Sorry, if you cannot do that. But if you are directly talking with the endpoints, yes, you can do it. So hope this answers this question of how do I integrate? So you have to come here and then you can create a web crawler or an advanced crawler. Push API is more like in future, if Sitecore is considering like, okay, if people have used Coveo, you know how Coveo works, where you install a package and internally it uses the push API to push the data back to Coveo, and then eventually you use it in the search. So this is something similar, but at the moment it doesn't have like out-of-box package that you could include, install in Sitecore that could do the work for you. At the moment, it's pretty much like a web crawler. If you want to do a custom implementation, you could use push API to push the data back. API crawler is mostly, okay, I can give you a scenario which recently we ran into where it's an order cloud website, where order cloud is a REST-based thing where it gives all the products and catalogs. So how do I crawl that? So we created a middleware where it talks to the order cloud, gets the data, gets the products and everything, and then the crawler was crawling. So in my case, I used Coveo for that, but you could use in that similar situation where it is just a REST endpoint, gives all my product information or anything. Then you can directly point it to that and then start crawling. So I have created a couple of web crawlers here. You can see this blog test. And then it has items indexed here, publish. Let's go into that. So you go into that. First and foremost, you see this. This is some basic stuff. The main thing you need to look into is this web crawler. So once you expand that, it talks about what is the trigger type. So here you can say whether it is a sitemap index. Typically, in my case, I can quickly show. Okay, here. So if I go here, this is my sitemap index. So once I go into the particular post, then it has all my posts. Can go back here. So I'll show you the difference here. So if you go back one step into the sources, you can see this is my blog and this is also my blog. So in one I'm having like 214 items, and then the other one I have like 61 items here. So what is the difference? They both are pointing to the same website. Why am I seeing these difference? The main reason is one is pointed to the XML root index and the other one is pointed to my actual post. So that's the reason you have two different results. So we'll getting back here. So let's go back into this one. So you can see this here. I've just pointed to sitemap XML. So for the people who are asking questions, so as long as the site is public facing, if it is Sitecore or it's Adobe or Contentful or any other platform, it doesn't matter. WordPress, anything, you can put an index here, and then you can add multiple URLs as well. You have these options. So you can say this is one index, but it can have multiple URLs that you can do. There are like a couple of fields here where it says the max depth, how many levels deep I can go, and the number of maximum URLs that I can crawl. So when you see a crawler, it talks to one page, and then if it sees another link, it will crawl that, and it sees another link, it will keep going further down the lane. So you don't want that to happen. So that's what they say max depth. In this case, I just left it as 0. But you can say, hey, just do one level, don't go out of a thing. And then you have this exclusion patterns where you can say, hey, this particular area I don't want to crawl. So you can add some exclusion patterns here. And they use a regex or a glob expression where you can give, if the URL matches this or any particular expression, then it will skip those items. And the maximum timeout. And this header is something which is common. Most of the times, if you want to see if the crawler is hitting your website, or for example, consider this as a bot. So in this case, I can have a custom header, and then I can give a value. In that case, in Sitecore backend or any other site, if you see this header, hey, we know this is a bot, don't consider this as a visit or visit to our site. For example, if you're using GA, then you can have a filter and say, ignore this particular traffic, more like avoiding the noise in your analytics stream. That's about the web crawler. The another important thing is related to the attribute extraction. If you have used other platforms, pretty much when you crawl, it crawls everything and then it digests that data. Automatically it creates. In this case, with Sitecore Search, it's more customizable, where you need to you can mention like what. In this case, it is doing an attribute extraction where I'm saying like, hey, anytime you see this OG tags and particular things, and I'm putting into this attribute, I will quickly show one example. By the way, self-plug, this is my blog. If you're interested to do on stuff, for example, just do a view page source. Most of your sites will have this OG tags here. Not seen this. These tags are pretty much used for your social media. For example, if I share this on LinkedIn or Twitter or anywhere, these are the data that it will utilize, where it gets all the different details like what is my image and URL description, title, what type it is, and everything. So what I'm trying to do in this case, I'm trying to use the Sitecore Search crawler where I'm pointing to these properties, and then I'm just putting that into these particular attributes. So you can see this OG URL, OG image, OG title, articles. I'm just putting it into the tags. Another thing, you can also use XPath. When you say XPath, if you have done some Selenium or other things where you could have used this, where you can mention it something like this. / meta and whatever this is at, then automatically it can pick up. So in this case, I have meta tag, so it was easy for me to do just OG colon. In that case, it's OG tag colon this one, it will pick up the value. So you can see this. Let's try to add some custom attributes here. And then I can choose whichever is on. This one, XPath, and then I can give a path, whatever value I want to. I'm doing that. Let's see. And then the last one you can see here is scan frequency. So how often you want this crawler to be crawling the data? So it's more like every 6 hours. In this case, I put like every 6 hours, it's going to crawl it. Any questions here you want to explore, I can answer. Anything related to the, this is like a very straightforward web crawler, nothing fancy here. Let's get back into the advanced web crawler. We'll take the Bala one example. Okay, so you can see the status here, whether it went live, what version it is, how many items indexed when it was last modified. Again, going back into the web crawler settings, let's edit that. And in this case, you can see it's more advanced, so it gives a lot more options here. So you can mention what domains, the same max depth and max URL. exclusion patterns. Parallelism is something like the number of threads set up to crawl the site. So in this case, I've set up through 2 threads. So in parallel, it can do. If it is a huge site, then you can bump this number. So you can have multiple threads. In this case, you can say like one thread is calling my home page, one thread is crawling my about page. So we can get things done faster. Is there any limitations like how many items? No, absolutely not. There is no limitations at the moment. It depends on the licensing factor. So I should say that. So how many visits and how many items is something they will count towards your licensing cost. So no, not at the moment. There is no limits. So here I have bumped the timeout. Headers I have not given anything. And you see this option where it also talks about, hey, do you want to render JavaScript? So certain cases, if it is not a SSR rendered, like a server-side rendered page that's coming down, and if it needs, for example, if it is a single page application like React or something, then it might need to, you might need to enable this to allow rendering JavaScript. In that case, it will render the site on fly with the crawler, and then it can do it. So in my case, mine is pretty much like a regular site and it's not a single page, so I've turned it off. So available locals, you can see this here. You can add different languages. In this case, I've left it with ENUS, so I don't have multilingual support for my site. So tag definitions, you can mention like what is the content and what is the tag type. So in this case, this is what we were using there internally. I'll show you that. Okay, this is the tags one that we were using. I'll show you that one. The main important thing here we need to focus is the document extractor. So in this case, you can see that I'm using a JS extractor, and there are like 3 different types here again. For your crawling, in this case, I'm using a JavaScript extractor. And in this particular, here it is. If you expand that, I can pretty much throw in a JavaScript. And in this case, you can see this as a out of the box method that I could utilize. Here gets a request and response. So the response body is coming into the dollar, which is the crawler reading your website. That content is coming in response.body. And then internally, I'm just using some jQuery stuff here saying dollar of this particular thing. I'm taking the attribute. If there is nothing, then just say no type. It's plain and simple JavaScript. This gives you much more flexibility. What you want to manipulate the content, you want to do something, then you can do it in this JavaScript based extractor. This opens up a lot of opportunity for us at the crawler level. So you're not doing post processing after the crawler crawls it. Here you control what exactly needs to be crawled. So you have much more control over it. So this is one, and then in this extractor type, you can also mention XPath or CSS. In that case, for example, if you say CSS, then you can say, hey, this is my heading, it is always my H1, and my content will be always in the CSS class content. It picks up those 2 data, and you can crawl this, helps you do that. And XPath, as we discussed before, you could do XPath as well. So, okay, so next one, you can see this, as I talked before, there are a few things that it clearly says to do optional, where in this case, no authorization because mine is open site. But if it is behind authorization, like authentication, where you need to give a username and password to log in to crawl the content, in those cases, you can do this. The same with request extractors. Honestly, I've not used it. So, and then going down below, you can see the scan frequency. In this case, you can see I'm doing only weekly. There is no end date. And then the last one, which is talking about an enable incremental update. So in this case, I've not done that. So anytime it is doing scan, it's going to like do a crawl entirely on the site. But when you say incremental updates, then it's looking only for the changed content. It's a possibility too. Okay, that's all I had related to the search demo. Let's go back into the main one. So these are the two different types of sources. Pretty much that answers most of the questions, like how do I add? Let's try adding CBE. Then I can say I want this web crawler description. Do that. So this is the one I was talking about. You see these to-do options, and then you have the attribute extraction. These two you have to mandatorily do. Scan frequency, you can leave it, so by default it will take certain things. You go into here, and it clearly, one more thing I want to talk about is, you see all these things are showing as a draft at the moment. Nothing is published, so it's not active. It's not, you will not be able to use it. So let's do that one. Let's do Sitecore. CBE. Not sure. The URL here. Before I do that, let me open it one time. Let's see, one more question here. What is that? Can we do specific mentions on content while? Can we do specific mention on the content while do search? For example, Sitecore. Vignesh, can you expand the question? Sorry, I'm not getting what is asked here.
Let's say example, the Google while do the search, right? For a specific content should be then the search results will do put in the double quotes. Specifically, the search will take care of that, the particular component.
Yeah. Okay, I got it. Yes, you can do that.
Yeah, thank you.
So here, for example, we have events. Let's take that one. In this case, it is having the search 101. So let's go back here. Let's do the full site itself. Save it. So now it is saying attribute extraction. This is going to be there is not some metadata here. I think this will take more time, so let's skip that for now. I don't see the metadata. If it is, it would be easier. Otherwise, we have to manually do things. Okay, for now, you got the idea here. So let's, if there is time, we will get back to this one. I can just add. Just add. Text value, I'll just say sample for now. So you can see this, once I put all the values here, then it gives me an option to publish. You want to publish the source, I can say. So it will say a new rescan job has been started. If you go back here, you can see source is queued for indexing. Let's come back to after a few minutes and see if it picked up. I don't expect it to work, so if it works, it's fine. So let's get back into the platform. Since this is what do you call, like, this is a demo environment, I really don't have anything like analytics or anything to show, but I can just quickly show you what we have here. So the first thing you would notice here is the site performance. So at the moment, everything is blank. I wish I had something that I could show, but most of the things here, you can see the visits, page views, pretty much like a fully full-blown site analytics will be available here. So more like a in another thing in Sitecore Search, they call everything as widget, or like a search component. What you see is all widgets. And then these are the widget clicks, click conversions. So if you had a particular something that they are buying, and then you can push it in the event analytics and say, hey, this particular click got converted into a sale. So those kind of things. So pretty much the core idea behind Sitecore Search is coming from the Discover platform. So you will see a lot of commerce related stuff, more like a hybrid of that. So the next one is pages. So you can create custom pages here. So when you go into this page, by default, you will have page variations, and then you have certain page settings where you can give your general where it is being used. So page variations, if I go into the default variation, you can see this. This is more like a sandbox. So I'm getting some errors that's been looked into, but mostly you can see this they consider this as widgets. So you can see select widgets where you can add or create a new widget where you're saying like, hey, I want a search result. That's what I've done here. And then everything you will have a ID. So when you're dealing with this, this ID is important. When you're really adding a JavaScript SDK, and then you would need to give this RFK ID where basically it's kind of like you can put this JavaScript piece in any website, and then it can pull this particular search widget and show it in your website. So that connectivity happens through this RFK ID. So in this case, you can see I have an RFK 99 for another thing and RFK ID 7 here. But most of the other things you can see your custom filters, you can add it here. Your custom query, sorting, context, everything, you can do things here. And if you go into the validation settings, throwing up a lot of errors since it's. So in this case, you can have different variations. More we talked about A/B testing kind of a thing. So you can have this variation or that variation. But in this case, I'm just having one default variation where I give all the data. So if you go back here, and then finally you can publish this, and then eventually it will be available for people to use. So that's about the pages. And there are common widgets that you could use across different areas of the site. So that is also a possibility. So this is what I was talking about, RFK ID that you will utilize. So like once you use the JavaScript SDK, that's when you will realize that you need this RFK ID that should be unique. So you have the widgets here. That is what we just saw is more like two different views. In the page, I'm using widgets. So here it's directly the widget itself. So you can see this filters and other things I've applied, content type I've set and filter to articles. Moving back into analytics, again, I don't have much. Analytics is something really useful with search. A lot of times we do search and we really don't know what people are looking for, and there is a content gap or something. So this particular area is really helpful. So if you're doing a general search, if, for example, a lot of times with my clients, we set up Coveo or other platforms where we don't look into the analytics data to improve the content. But that's a very important thing which is undervalued. Like a lot of people don't realize it. But most of the times, if you look into that data, then you will know like what exactly people are looking for, and are they seeing the content that they're looking for. A lot of times, if it is a zero results, then your site is not having the data. In that case, you need to add the data, and if there is a content gap, then you can mention it to the content team. They can improve the content. So in this case, you can see top content by views, conversions, biggest gainers, and like some basic stuff here. Everything is blank. I don't have much content in my thing. Other things is you have the global widgets, the one we are talking about, the synonyms. For example, if I search for MVP keyword, it could be replaced with the Sitecore MVP. So you can have synonyms created here. More going into the catalog. So this first, let's go into the content. So this is where you will find all your content. So you can see all my crawled content is available here. So I can search for Azure. So if I do a search for that particular keyword, then I'm getting all this data. Then I can click on that and you can see what this is the data that the crawler has seen. And you can see since I'm using my meta tags, it also picked up my, the banner image for that particular blog. On the stats is where you will see like what was the click-through average and how this particular content is performing. Those details can be seen here. And then this has different views. So in this case, this might be a little bit better. And then you get this search view where pagination and other components. I think that is all. Okay, one more area. So UUID is where if a visitor profile is created, this is the ID that you will be looking for. So when you do a general search, UID is generated. And that ID, let's try if I can show you with Sitecore Search. Let's see. So you can see this that one. Let's see. So it is picking up the details. Which one is that? I don't see. Okay, this one, RFKID. So you see this widget. So everything is considered as widget, and this is an RFKID preview search, and then you can see all the related questions. A lot of details around that is available here. So pretty much this is how it communicates to the backend. So you can see this is the content grid. RFKID is 7. And the related questions and a lot of data is available here. Just go and explore so you will get an idea how internally this works. And a lot of I'm not seeing that data collection. It's the one or it's all Google Analytics. So it does have all my details. You can see this is, I didn't give any information. This is a public facing website, but it knows as I'm coming from here and this is all my information. It is collected. You can see the scores, what I'm looking for, segment IDs, a lot of information is available here related to me. So me as a profile, like in this case, I'm using CA as the company. In the past, I've given some details or picked up, so it knows it's me. That makes sense. Let's get back into search here. And then you have the CCP GDPR deletion request. So if in case somebody's, if you're in GDPR compliance, or if somebody requests, say, hey, I don't want my data, and if you can get their UUID, then pretty much you can ask to delete all the information. So in my case, if in this particular search I was showing where it has all my data available, sorry, this one. So all this data, I said like, hey, I don't want you to store any of my data. In that case, you can put in a request that will clear out the data. Going back to the developer resources here. So these are all my event API and then API keys. I'll obviously delete this key after the demo, but the API keys that can be used for the API Explorer. So here you can see the widget ID, and then you can test certain things, put a request, and then you say like what response comes back. So directly check on their platform. Same way with the event monitoring. So if you say get my UID, and for example, let's give it a shot. It's taking to CA website. So if you put your grid here and start monitoring, so any transactions that you do, you can monitor it here and see how it is flowing through the backend. And then you can see events will be monitored for 15 minutes after you start. So only 15 minutes. So anything you do, it's more like a live debugging kind of thing for your event monitoring. Okay, I think that's all I had. One more thing I want to talk through is the documentation. One more, how many types of data? How many types of data it support for Sitecore Search? Are you talking about the content types or like an article search, anything like that, Shailesh? Okay, yeah, there is no limit on that. So that's what I was saying, like the items and the content types, there is no limit. As long as you can define your content types and the attributes and then marry them together to make this as like this particular content type, these are the fields. So you can create a number of attributes and then you can create a number of field types. So blog, news articles, or anything you want. Yes, that's a feasibility. So if you want to look into the Sitecore documentation here, where you can get started once you have your once you have your what do you call, like the sandbox, then you can come here. There are like a few options like where it gets started, and there is one good article on Sitecore site as well. I'll show that. Let's go back to this one. We did see the Sitecore web crawler and advanced crawler. Moment before we do that, just want to see what happened to our sources that we created. Sources. Okay, it did fail. You know, I as I mentioned, this is a new feature that recently they added, where it will clearly say what exactly went wrong. The number of index documents should be bigger than 0. No request to crawl. So something is wrong here. We need to fix it. In our case, we clearly know that the meta attribute mapping was not done right. So it will fail like this if it is something is wrong. Once it's fixed, then you will see it will be like with the green checkout. Let me get back to this one. So any questions here? So before I do that, this is the documentation I was showing through. And the next one. This is one thing I can quickly throw. What sets apart, a lot of information is available here. Whatever I talked through today, you will be able to see that. This is the content click-through rate and other things I was talking through. So this is more like gives an overview, and then the other one you can look into the what do you call, like the documentation to get started. Okay, any questions here? We'll keep it open. What are the licensing options we have with Sitecore Search? Prabhu, like I discussed before, the licensing options, it's more going to be related to the amount of traffic they get through the API. Pretty much close to what Coveo is also doing, because Coveo typically doesn't restrict you as much on the, it restricts you with the number of content sources that you can create, and then the number of API calls that you make depends on that, the cost. It's something similar here. I don't think Sitecore Search does do with anything with the content sources, but licensing, you should talk to the partner contact. But in a general idea, it depends on the number of traffic that your site gets. More like 100,000 search API calls, or according to that, they will be pricing it out. But more information, you should talk to the Sitecore partner contact. Any other questions we have to discuss? I want to keep it interactive. How is it better than Coveo? That's a very good question. I was expecting somebody would ask it. There are two different platforms, so I wouldn't compare directly a Coveo and Sitecore Search, but we know in the Sitecore space we have 3 options, pretty much 4 options, let's say. Most of the times we use Solar by default. If you have a little bit budget, then the next option people would choose is search stacks, and more like the next one you can think as Sitecore Search, and the last option is Coveo. I'm layering it with the cost aspect. Solar, no cost. Search stacks, reasonable cost. Search Sitecore Search would be a little bit more, but has some more features. And then the last one is Coveo, is pretty more like a premium brand for the Sitecore, like the search. Can be, what is that? Oh, better than Coveo. So there is not like they both are 2 different platforms, and most of the features what you have seen, I personally, if you ask me, like how do you compare it with Coveo, because I did a lot of presentation on Coveo as well, more of a Coveo advocate as well. So to my initial stance, I've used all 3 platforms. Coveo is much more out of the box. It does a lot of things. So whatever I showed you, you can see a lot of customization you can do with Sitecore Search. But ease of use, if you have used Coveo in the past, you would feel Coveo is much easier to use. Does your budget allow you to use it? Yes, if that is the case, Coveo would be a good option that you can try out. But if it is not the case, then I would recommend like Sitecore Search or Search Tags, depending on what the preference is. From the feature aspect, Coveo is more, they have a separate area for your commerce, and content search is totally separate. So there's not like a mix. So that is something Sitecore Search has inbuilt, more like a little bit of a e-commerce mixed into the platform. But Coveo, if you are using just the content search, you will not have anything related to e-commerce. Most of the things is just content, and you will do everything content. If you need commerce, then they have a Coveo Commerce separately, which is closer to closer to Sitecore Discover. So that is one option. Coveo also has Salesforce, and it has a lot of out-of-the-box connector, and you can also install a package which makes our life easier. So if you want to crawl your Sitecore items directly, then you could do that. XM Cloud, do we have a container-based application for our local if someone not partner? No, absolutely not. Sitecore Search is much more, so it needs a lot of pieces to make it work. So no, not at the moment. And it's a pure SaaS platform, so they don't have that option. XM Cloud, as we know, they have to give you a developer environment so that you can build. But if you need Sitecore Search, it's better off to get a sandbox environment and then eventually use it. Good questions. Kept it more interactive. Good group. Any other questions you think of? Feel free to put it in the chat. Okay. We don't have much going on. Thank you very much for taking your time. I know it's a Sunday evening, and glad at least I was able to give you a little bit of insight. I know it's not a too in-depth session, but at least whatever I've learned, I was able to share it with the group. Does it have a content type image search? So, Vignesh, you need to expand. Content type image.
So let's say example, I have to go to the Google again, the image search, right? So while we integrate with the commerce platforms, so in that case,
okay, you're talking about an image search itself, like pasting an image and searching for that particular content?
Yes, that's all.
No, that's not supported. No.
It would have been better.
Yeah, I think we are all like pretty much everybody is spoiled with Google, right? Everybody is using it day to day, and then pretty much anytime when it comes to search, we directly compare like, hey, how good is it closer to Google, because we are used to it day in and out. But most of the other features like autocomplete, search highlighting, relevance tuning, those kind of features are available, but image search, yeah, that's good. I can inform, like I talk to them and give some feedback. So yes, I can bring that up. Okay, any other questions, or are we good? You have a couple of minutes here. Okay, thank you very much for taking time and staying back almost an hour, I think, on a Sunday evening. It has been a pleasure, and hope it's been a little bit informational, and whatever you got an idea what exactly is Sitecore Search, and then this will be more like a starting point for you too. And I want to keep this 101. I know I did go in detail about certain areas, but at least it gives you a head start for you to go in and try something out. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you, Vignesh and Gautam, for allowing me to present.
Thanks, Balaji. I know it's early morning for you. And thanks for providing us with the valuable information about the Sitecore Search and its capabilities, features, limitations, and demo to us, and as well as for our questions. And I believe the Sitecore Search session is, will be beneficial. And we will upload this session in our website and as well as on the YouTube channel. The YouTube channel is SugCbe.
And as Prabhu mentioned during our introduction, we have many useful events and webinars planned for future. If you have any inquiries, please do reach us, contact at SUGCbe.in or by visiting our website. Thanks for joining and keep supporting us.
Hey, thanks everyone again for providing me opportunity, and it's a very good group of people and asking good questions. I really enjoyed doing it. Thank you very much. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye. Take
Thank
care.
you. Thanks for. Bye-bye.